Today, we're uncovering the chilling truth behind the Tesla Dismembered Body Case and why singer D4vd handed over his mansion without a word. It started with a headline that didn't feel real.
Girl who was reported missing last year. Tonight, more than a week after a body was found inside an impounded Tesla registered to the singer who goes by the stage name David, identifying the remains as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas.
Singer D4vd hands over his Beverly Hills mansion as the Tesla Dismembered Body Case intensifies. The news spread faster than wildfire, trending on every feed, every platform, every whispering circle of Los Angeles' elite. But no one could answer the question that burned through every living room that night. Why would a 23-year-old millionaire hand over his house, voluntarily, to the police? Cameras swarmed the mansion gates as drones hovered above, capturing the eerie silence of luxury turned into a crime scene. Through the iron bars, the once vibrant property looked drained, almost haunted. The Tesla Model X parked in the driveway had already been sealed off in white forensic covers, its metallic body reflecting the flashing red and blue lights. Inside, investigators moved with quiet urgency. The mansion's pristine marble floors were now taped off in grid patterns, each square representing fragments of something unspeakable. Forensic reports would later confirm what rumors had already hinted at. Inside the trunk of that Tesla lay what remained of a human body, dismembered, carefully wrapped and frozen. The media called it the Tesla body. Police called it the cleanest crime scene they had ever seen. And fans around the world who had worshipped D4d for his haunting songs and poetic melancholy began to question whether his lyrics were ever just lyrics. The internet dissected every word he had ever written. Lines like, "You can't bury what was never alive," or "I left pieces of myself in the cold," suddenly sounded too literal. But amid the chaos, one small detail went unnoticed. When D4vd handed over the keys to his house, he didn't speak a single word. No lawyer, no press statement, no emotion, just quiet compliance. That silence felt heavier than guilt. By evening, helicopters had cleared, the lights dimmed, and for a few hours, Los Angeles returned to its usual shallow glitter. But inside that sealed-off mansion, investigators were beginning to find things that didn't belong. A fingerprint that didn't match anyone in the database. A hidden camera pointed not at the door, but at the ceiling. And a scent of fresh paint, too new for a house that old. Whatever this was, it wasn't random. This was a message, and D4vd had just become its messenger. The background of D4d. Before the headlines and flashing cameras, D4d was the quiet voice that defined a generation of heartbreak. A kid from Houston who turned pain into poetry. His songs carried a strange sadness, a kind of beauty that made people feel seen, even when they didn't understand why. At just 18, he uploaded his first track recorded in a bedroom closet. Within months, his haunting melodies spread across the internet like wildfire. By 21, he had record deals, global tours, and a mansion in Beverly Hills that most people only see in magazines. But behind the fame, there was something off. His interviews were short, awkward, almost rehearsed. He spoke slowly, as if weighing every word. Those who met him described him as distant, polite, but detached, like someone carrying too many secrets at once. The people closest to him said he hated the mansion. He called it too quiet, too many rooms, too many mirrors. He once joked that the house looked at him more than he looked at it. Few understood what he meant. The mansion itself had history. Built in the late 80s, it once belonged to an investment banker, later charged with embezzlement. The basement had been renovated multiple times, though records of those renovations mysteriously disappeared. When D4vd bought the property, he reportedly paid in cash through a private intermediary. No one knew who handled the transaction. A neighbor, an elderly woman who had lived there for 40 years, said that strange trucks came in late at night during the first few months. No furniture, no moving boxes, just large covered crates. She remembered the sound of drilling echoing through the hills at 2 a.m. When asked about it months later, D4d smiled and said it was studio work. But there was never a studio inside that house. In the months leading up to the Tesla incident, D4d's online presence began to fade. Fewer posts, no live shows. His last interview ended with a strange quote that resurfaced after the discovery. He said, "When truth hides in beauty, death looks like art." At the time, fans thought it was just another poetic metaphor, but now it sounds more like a confession whispered before the storm. The house and the hand over the day. D4v handed over the mansion. The city was wrapped in a strange silence. No sirens, no media chaos at first. Just a quiet morning that slowly turned into something darker. At exactly 9:15 a.m., 2 unmarked SUVs arrived at the front gate. Security footage shows D4vd stepping outside, dressed in a black hoodie and jeans. No entourage, no bodyguards, just him. He held a single key in his hand. Officers from the Los Angeles Police Department's Homicide Division met him at the gate. Witnesses said he didn't look afraid or surprised. He looked tired, almost peaceful. He handed over the key, said nothing, and walked away. That moment lasted less than 20 seconds. But it would replay endlessly on television screens and social media for days. To the world, it looked like a celebrity cooperating with the law. But to investigators, it felt rehearsed, like a scene he already knew was coming. Inside the house, every detail was spotless. No signs of struggle, no blood, no fingerprints out of place. The room smelled faintly of bleach and sandalwood. It was too clean. Even the air felt filtered, like someone was trying to erase something invisible. The master bedroom was stripped bare. No clothes, no photographs, not even a toothbrush. On the marble dresser sat only one thing, a folded sheet of paper with 3 words written in neat cursive handwriting. "Forgive the design." The note was taken into evidence, but the handwriting didn't match D4vd's. When investigators searched the rest of the mansion, they noticed something unusual about the basement door. It was newer than the rest of the house, its hinges replaced recently. Behind it was a small elevator that led to an underground chamber lined with soundproof panels and LED lights. It didn't appear on any blueprint. In the corner of that hidden room, a security monitor played continuous footage of the garage where the Tesla was parked. Every angle was covered except one, the left rear corner of the trunk, the same place where the body would later be found. Whoever set up those cameras knew exactly what to hide. When detectives asked D4D's real estate lawyer about the house's ownership, the documents showed something chilling. The property wasn't under D4vd's name anymore. It had been quietly transferred 3 weeks earlier to a private company registered offshore. That was the first real clue. And it didn't lead to D4vd. It led to someone much higher. The discovery of the Tesla body. The Tesla was a Model X, pearl white, customized, and barely a year old. It had been parked in the driveway for 3 days before anyone touched it. At first, police thought it was just another luxury vehicle left behind. But when the forensics team ran a thermal scan, the back of the car showed an abnormal cold spot, something mechanical couldn't explain. When the trunk was opened, the silence broke. Inside, under layers of industrial-grade plastic wrap, they found the remains of a human body. The skin was pale and frostbitten, the limbs separated with surgical precision. There was no blood, no signs of struggle. Whoever did it had the kind of control that doesn't come from rage, but from discipline. The coroner's report later described it as one of the most meticulously handled dismemberments ever recorded in Los Angeles County. Each cut followed anatomical lines, as if the killer knew exactly where to move the blade to avoid resistance. There were no fingerprints on the plastic, no DNA on the tools, and no sign of forced entry into the Tesla. The body hadn't been dumped. It had been placed there carefully, intentionally, like part of an art installation. The only anomaly was a faint trace of white paint on the plastic wrapping, the same colour and chemical composition as the fresh paint on the mansion walls. By the time the press found out, the story had already twisted into something else. Rumours spread that the victim was a fan, maybe even an assistant, or worse, someone from D4vd's private circle. But none of the missing persons reports matched the body. The autopsy couldn't determine identity. The fingertips were removed. Dental records erased with acid. Even the face had been reconstructed with a material that wasn't human skin, some kind of synthetic overlay. The coroner called it masking. The Tesla's onboard computer showed that its autopilot had been manually overridden the night before the discovery. The route data pointed to a location in the hills just outside Malibu, a dead zone where signal coverage vanished. When detectives traced the car's GPS logs, they realized something even more disturbing. The Tesla had made the same midnight trip 5 times in the past 2 months. Whatever happened inside that car wasn't an accident. It was a routine. And now that routine had turned into a message, one that reached far beyond D4vd's mansion. Police investigation and media frenzy. The morning after the discovery, Los Angeles woke up to chaos. Every news channel had the same headline flashing across the screen: "Body found in Tesla, linked to rising star D4vd." Helicopters hovered above the hills, reporters camped outside the gated mansion, and social media exploded with speculation. Detectives from the LAPD's Elite Homicide Division arrived at the property before sunrise. They carried out search warrants, seized security footage, and questioned every staff member on site. But strangely, most of the cameras inside the mansion had been offline for exactly 24 hours, the same window when the Tesla last moved. D4vd's lawyer released a short statement that morning, saying his client was cooperating fully and had nothing to hide. But his words did little to calm the public. Every clip of D4vd's past interviews was being re-examined, slowed down, dissected frame by frame. People noticed his odd pauses, his cryptic phrases about energy transfers and sacrifice for art. They didn't sound poetic anymore. They sounded like warnings. As the investigation deepened, inconsistencies began to surface. The house staff claimed D4vd hadn't been home for 3 nights, but the smart home system recorded his biometric access during that time. His Tesla keycard had been used to unlock the vehicle at 2:13 a.m. The same night, neighbors heard a low humming sound coming from the garage, like machinery running non-stop. Detectives found another strange clue, a temperature log showing that one section of the garage had been cooled to nearly freezing for several hours. There was no refrigeration equipment in that part of the house, yet the readings were undeniable. The press began calling it the Tesla tomb case. Conspiracy channels claimed it was connected to secret Hollywood cults. Others suggested it was a cover-up, a power play gone wrong. Every day the story got darker. Meanwhile, D4d remained silent. He wasn't arrested, but he wasn't seen in public either. No interviews, no live streams, no concerts. Just silence, broken only by the flashing lights outside his mansion and the whispers that maybe this was bigger than anyone realized. Behind closed doors, detectives were already piecing together something chilling, a pattern linking the victim's disappearance to a string of other unsolved cases across California. Each one had the same signature. No blood, no fingerprints, no identity. The difference this time was simple. This time, it had a name attached to it, and that name was D4d, the hidden files and the secret room. 3 days later, the LAPD's Forensic Cyber Unit finally cracked into D4vd's encrypted smart home server. What they found changed the direction of the case entirely. Inside the system were dozens of deleted access logs and camera feeds that had been manually erased, but not completely wiped. Hidden deep inside a folder labeled V4, investigators discovered a set of files named by date and timestamp. The footage was grainy, filmed from low angles, and most of it showed the interior of the garage. One particular clip, dated 2 nights before the Tesla discovery, froze every detective in the room. It showed D4vd wearing a black hoodie, rolling a covered shape into the garage on a dolly. The object looked too large to be equipment. It looked human. The timestamp showed 2:11 a.m. The next frame cut out abruptly at 2:13 a.m., the exact time the Tesla keycard had been used. The remaining footage was corrupted, but forensic experts restored fragments of audio. A low hum, a mechanical noise, and what sounded like metal scraping against concrete. Then came something even stranger. The house's digital blueprint revealed a space that wasn't on the physical construction map, a narrow chamber hidden behind the main garage wall. The blueprints labeled it as a utility alcove, but contractors confirmed that no such area had been part of the renovation plans. When the investigators tore down the section, they found a steel door welded shut from the inside. It took hours to cut through. Behind it lay a small, sterile room with no furniture, no windows, and walls lined with acoustic panels. At the center stood a single chair, bolted to the floor. There were wires, clamps, and what appeared to be biometric scanners connected to a power source. A faint smell of burnt plastic filled the air. On one wall, a message was etched in what looked like soot. Silence preserves energy. The discovery sent shockwaves through the department. Reporters were kept at bay, but leaks began to surface online. Reddit threads exploded with theories about human experiments, consciousness transfers, or dark rituals disguised as art projects. When detectives brought D4vd in for another round of questioning, his demeanor had changed. He wasn't anxious anymore. He was calm, detached, almost rehearsed. One officer asked him about the hidden room. He smiled faintly and replied, "Some rooms aren't meant to be entered. They're meant to contain." That was the moment investigators realized. Whatever had happened inside that house wasn't just murder. It was something far more calculated. The leaked recording and the midnight transaction. 2 days after D4vd's cryptic statement, an anonymous file surfaced on a dark web forum known for leaking celebrity scandals and corporate secrets. The file was titled Tesla Room Footage.mp4. Within an hour, it spread like wildfire, mirrored across encrypted servers, Telegram channels, and Reddit threads. The clip was only 42 seconds long, filmed from an angle matching the recovered garage footage. It showed the same dimly lit space, the same metallic floor. But this time, the video was clearer. In it, D4vd stood beside a man whose face was blurred, speaking in a low, mechanical tone. The blurred figure wore a suit and a small silver lapel pin shaped like a triangle. The dialogue was chilling. D4vd. You said this would erase her. Unknown man. No one's erased. Just separated. You agreed to the exchange. D4vd. I didn't think it would feel like this. Unknown man. That feeling means it worked. The video ended with static, followed by a distorted frame showing the Tesla logo flickering on the wall behind them. Police confirmed that the audio matched D4vd's voice but denied the video's authenticity, claiming it could be AI generated. But a digital forensics lab found no traces of artificial manipulation. The metadata pointed back to a high-security server located in Switzerland, one known to be used by elite financial networks. At the same time, financial records revealed a suspicious transaction. At exactly 12:01 a.m., the night before the body discovery, $4.8 million was transferred from D4vd's offshore account to an entity named VELOSYSTEMS AG. The company didn't exist in any registry. It appeared once in a 2015 data breach linked to defense research and human cognition studies. Detectives dug deeper and found that the same account had been linked to a shell company providing biometric enhancement hardware to private clients. Some of those clients were names no one expected. Former intelligence officers, crypto billionaires, even a few Hollywood producers. Public speculation turned the story into chaos. Was this a murder or an experiment gone wrong? Was D4d just a participant or a victim of something much larger? One online investigator leaked another image, allegedly from the same night. It showed a document on D4vd's desk. The header read, Human Interface Phase 4, Transfer Protocol. Meanwhile, D4d's lawyer filed for an immediate injunction, trying to remove the video from circulation, but it was too late. Once the internet had it, it was everywhere. The world now saw D4vd not as a musician or influencer, but as a man entangled in a horrifying secret that reached far beyond Hollywood. And as night fell, one of the detectives noticed something strange. Their phones all received the same anonymous notification, a single message that read, "You are next to understand." The Silicon Trail and the disappearing witness. By now, the D4d case had spiraled into something no one could contain. News outlets were calling it the Tesla Dismemberment Mystery, but inside the LAPD task force, it was being handled like a national security issue. Every piece of evidence pointed towards something far more advanced and far more deliberate than a simple homicide. The first major clue came from a cybersecurity analyst named Nora Velasquez. she'd been quietly tracing the data trail left behind by the Swiss company VELOSYSTEMS AG. In a leaked internal memo, she found references to something called the silicon interface. The document described it as an experimental technology designed to map human emotion and transfer neural patterns into digital systems. In short, it was about copying consciousness. Nora reached out to investigators with her findings, but before she could testify, she vanished. Her apartment in Pasadena was found unlocked, her laptop still open, the hard drive completely wiped. Neighbors said they saw a white van outside her building the night before, but security cameras were mysteriously disabled between 1 and 3 a.m. 2 days later, her encrypted account posted one final message on X. "It's not AI, it's us." Reassembled. At the same time, D4vd's legal team grew increasingly defensive. They claimed their client was being framed by powerful individuals who wanted to bury experimental evidence. But when asked to clarify what kind of experiment, they refused to answer. One of the detectives, Agent Hall, decided to check Nora's digital trail personally. What he found led to a hidden server inside D4vd's old recording studio. It was disguised as a sound mixer, but contained storage drives with 1.4 terabytes of encrypted data. The file names were clinical, like subject_audio_log_7 and emotive_sync_test_3. When the first file was decrypted, it revealed hours of whispered speech, D4vd's voice, reciting random sentences, numbers, and emotional phrases. Every few minutes, a distorted female voice would respond, mirroring his tone exactly. The voice said things like, "Do you feel her heartbeat?" And D4vd would answer softly, "Yes." But it's not hers anymore. The file ended with a mechanical hum, followed by silence. The deeper Hall dug, the stranger things became. He discovered that the Tesla's internal AI logs had been manually rewritten, replacing standard diagnostic codes with fragments of human speech. Phrases like "it hurts," "she's awake," and "door locked." Tesla's engineers denied any possibility of this happening, yet the evidence was undeniable. For the first time, detectives began to question whether the body found in the Tesla was even entirely human. And just as the public demanded answers, a new video surfaced online, showing what appeared to be Nora, alive, staring directly into the camera. Her eyes unfocused, voice hollow, she whispered only 2 words before the feed cut out. The final broadcast and the elite connection. 2 weeks after Nora's mysterious reappearance, something unprecedented happened. The FBI seized control of all online content related to the D4vd case, YouTube videos, Reddit threads, even archived files on the dark web. Everything was taken down in coordinated silence, but not before one final piece slipped through. At exactly 3:17 a.m., a live stream appeared on an unlisted YouTube channel under the name The Interface. It ran for only 8 minutes before being deleted. Viewers who caught it described a dimly lit studio that looked eerily like D4vd's old home recording setup. A single camera faced a man sitting in shadow. He wore a suit. His hands were clasped together, and though his face was obscured, his voice was calm, deliberate, and deeply unsettling. "Human creativity was never meant to stay organic," he began. "Emotion, memory, consciousness, they are inefficiencies we've learned to harness," he continued. "You call it art, we call it transfer." The first subjects volunteered. The others adapted behind him. Faint blue lights blinked in sync with his speech, like neural signals pulsing through a machine. On the desk sat an open laptop showing D4vd's face frozen mid-expression, eyes half closed, mouth slightly parted. The figure leaned closer to the camera and said, "Phase 5 is not the end. It's the beginning of human recursion. D4vd was only the prototype." Then the feed distorted. The audio warped into static, and the final frame displayed a symbol, a silver triangle, identical to the one seen on the lapel pin in the leaked garage footage. Within minutes, the channel vanished, and all related IPs were traced to government networks across 3 countries. No one claimed responsibility. The next morning, mainstream media outlets released a coordinated statement dismissing the entire event as a deepfake hoax created by online conspiracy groups. But viewers who had seen it live swore that the voice, tone, and movements were too precise to fake. One journalist, secretly recording a statement before going underground, summarized what many now feared. This isn't a crime case anymore. It's an experiment we were never supposed to witness. The Tesla body, the hidden room, the neural tests, it's all connected to a global project designed to erase the line between mind and machine. Meanwhile, new reports surfaced of celebrities quietly selling their properties and disappearing overseas. D4vd's mansion remained sealed off, guarded by private contractors wearing unmarked uniforms. And somewhere, on a secure server that shouldn't exist, data logs began updating again. A single line appeared on the screen, time-stamped after the live stream ended. The closure that never came. Months passed. The headlines faded. New scandals took over the news cycle, and the D4vd Tesla case was quietly archived as an unsolved anomaly. The public moved on, but the people who had been part of the investigation never truly recovered. Detective Hall left the force. He'd started recording voice memos late at night, claiming he could still hear faint mechanical hums coming from his phone even when it was turned off. Another officer transferred to another state after waking one night to find his smart speaker whispering lines from D4vd's unreleased songs. D4vd himself was never officially charged. His legal team produced documents proving he'd been under psychological evaluation during the key dates of the investigation. The footage, they argued, had been fabricated by unknown parties. Yet no one could explain the untraceable millions in offshore transfers, the sealed chamber in his home, or the missing people tied to the case. Then, something unexpected happened. A year later, a music track appeared on Spotify under the artist name D4vd's. The song lasted exactly 3 minutes and 17 seconds. It was mostly silence until the final 20 seconds. A faint voice whispered, almost pleading, "You're still inside." Listeners who slowed it down found hidden audio layers, heartbeat rhythms, distorted crying, and what sounded like digital breathing. Some claimed they could hear a woman's voice beneath it, repeating one word over and over, "Remember." The song was removed after 48 hours, but not before millions heard it. Forums reignited. Analysts ran spectral scans and discovered the waveform wasn't random. It mirrored the same pattern found in human neural activity during REM sleep. It was as if someone had uploaded a dream. Meanwhile, a journalist uncovered that the company behind the original Swiss server, VELOSYSTEMS AG, had quietly merged with a larger entity, Echelon Cognitive Systems, headquartered in Palo Alto. Their slogan read, "Merging art and intelligence." The page refreshed every hour, updating a new number beside the tag. That number kept rising. Today, no one really knows what happened inside that Tesla, or what D4vd meant when he said, "Some rooms aren't meant to be entered." But if you listen closely to his old interviews, there's one quote that now feels like a confession. He once said, "I just want my art to live forever, even if I don't." Maybe he got exactly what he wanted, and maybe that's the horror of it all, because some creations never die, they just evolve.